So today I'd like to do a mid-mortem of Neverending Nightmares, sort of talk about what went right and what went wrong, you know, what's challenging and what's not challenging, and sorry, not challenging, what's you know, going better than expected. So I think in what went right, I would put the enemy encounters and the whole sort of what is it called, Lost Child level in the alpha. I was super nervous about the baby monster enemy, and I mean, he was in the trailer, which we did in May, I think, is when I think we did the trailer in like May or early June, and there was no, I mean, it was just playing a walk animation. That was the code for the baby monster, and then because all the trailer was basically in engine, so we had him play his animation in engine, but he didn't do anything. So after the Kickstarter finished, that was sort of top on my agenda, and I'm really pleased with the way he turned out, and certainly we've gotten a lot of helpful feedback from the alpha build. Certain setups are maybe too hard, and I mean, it's tough to you know, sort of collate everyone's thoughts, you know, from a survey and whatnot in the forums. But I mean, it seems like at the very least I'm gonna have to make the one of the setups, no spoilers, one of the setups definitely needs to be easier. People had challenges with that, so definitely, but overall I'm really pleased with how it turned out, and certainly we're going to keep pushing builds, and I'm going to keep tuning it and try and get it to the point where people you know, think the difficulty is right, and well, when I think the difficulty is right. So the enemy went well, and I'm really excited about the next enemy I'm working on. I think he's going to be really interesting. I don't think we're going to have a ton of enemies in the game, but I think that they're all going to be interesting, which I think is important. And I mean, I'm not quite sure, you know, certain parts of the game aren't as well designed as the you know, parts and the path we're working on right now, but I think they should be cool. What went wrong? I guess I don't know if it went wrong as much as it turned out to be a challenge, is that doing some of the 2D art has been difficult from a perspective standpoint. So I think maybe we could have, you know, given some more thought to it and maybe chosen a different perspective, or done things a little differently in that regard, because part of the problem is that it's, well, our perspective is so terribly fake, and I mean, there's not a good way to do real perspective, you know, real 3D perspective in 2D, because once you move the camera, the perspectives change, the parallel lines change. And one of the things I actually had a problem with is because the light frustum that for the window it projects the little, you know, bars, and in the, having a little brain fart here, in the coming storm level, and so those are actually done in 3D with a 3D camera and everything. And so I started with one in the center of the screen, and I moved them around in game. And then I realized that as you walked by, the lines would change, so it'd be, because that's the way perspective cameras work, is that the lines, you know, meet in a point, and so parallel lines don't ever appear parallel. So I ended up having to hack it such that they all sort of render at the center, and then you know, with the perspective camera, because if there's no perspective, it looks weird. So there's some perspective, but then it just doesn't change like the rest of our art. So like another instance is we had like bookcase art, and so the bookcase, you know, had like this, so you could see the perspective. But then if you put two bookcases together, there's this weird like V in between them where it doesn't line up, or you have to overlap them, and so that's weird. And then we're doing something more interesting with the floor, and then that's very challenging from a perspective standpoint. So I wish we had put a little more thought into that. And I mean, certainly, you know, one inclination is, oh, you know, we should have just done everything in 3D. But, well, I mean, 3D versus 2D is sort of an interesting argument. And I think most people who haven't done game development would say, oh, 2D is easier. And I think it's pretty much easier, just because there's a ton of technical problems you don't have to solve. But there's also, you know, some things that are challenging, like shadows and lighting and stuff to do that in 2D. And certainly we have our own, you know, shadow system and lighting system with different limitations, but I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. But, you know, then people say, oh, you get those for free in 3D, but really you have to worry about, like, shadow, offsets, PCF filter. I don't know. It's been a while since I've messed with shadows, but I mean, like, even, you know, getting the shadows looking right on the Mobius proposal was a pain in the butt. And, you know, I mean, it had a very simple lighting model. So, I mean, like, you know, I wouldn't say 2D is... I think that's a problem with Kickstarter, is people look at a 3D game and they say, oh, you know, this is going to cost way more than a 2D game, or this deserves way more money. And I'm guilty of this as well. But I mean, like, you know, Neverending Nightmares, we're doing a lot of art and a lot of interesting things and a lot of tech and a lot of... I mean, so it's not, you know, a pixel art game. I would say pixel art games on the whole are gonna end up being a bit significantly cheaper. Which I'm sure there's pixel art people who are like, oh, it's very hard, and I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying from a technical standpoint, I think you have the least to worry about, and you know, I mean, I think that counts for something. I don't know. Sorry, that was a bit rambly. I probably should have dedicated a whole thing to 2D versus 3D. But, I mean, everything depends on the game. But, you know, I'm happy with our 2D art style, and we have some really great 2D tech. So, I guess I can't complain too much. And I mean, I guess that's something we did right, is we came up with some cool tech that really helps us to do the games fast. And one of the things is I'm really happy with is our animation system, which is basically sort of based on morph targets, where we animate the vertices, and so it's a texture mapped sort of 2D character, and we animate the vertices, and so it's enabled our animators to really knock out assets fast and create very fluid animations, which is you know, sometimes an issue with 2D, because, you know, if you do it like cell animation, you have to draw every frame, but we keyframe, I don't know, it depends on the animation. Sometimes it's like 6 frames a second, sometimes it's like 30 frames a second, but then the system interpolates between them, so we even have a slow motion thing where you can watch it super slowly and see if there's any weirdness. But pretty happy about that. I think that worked out well, and in general, I'm happy with sort of the... Well, I guess it's sort of only a change in my mind, but I think we're focusing on less content and more high quality content, and I think that was the right decision. So I mean, the game's going to be shorter, but I think it's going to knock people's socks off. I think we're putting really special, really interesting things in there. So I'm happy about that. Anyway, so that's just sort of my mid-mortem thoughts of the day, of what's going right and wrong. So thanks for watching.